Denise Washington collapsed to the marble floor when she opened the bank app. 20 years of marriage had vanished overnight, along with every penny they'd saved together. Account balance, $212.46. Her husband Marcus had emptied their accounts the same day her mother was lowered into the ground. While Denise threw dirt on her mother's casket, Marcus transferred their life savings to offshore accounts no judge could touch. The divorce papers arrived by courier the next morning. "He planned this for months," her lawyer explained. "The judge says there's nothing we can do if we can't find the money." Denise stared at the eviction notice with her daughter's text glowing on her phone. "Dad says you have 72 hours to get out. Mom, what's happening?" That night, as she packed the few belongings Marcus generously allowed her to keep, Denise noticed an envelope that had slipped behind the dresser. Inside was something that made her blood run cold, then hot with rage. In that moment, something shifted in Denise's eyes. The tears dried up. The shaking stopped. In their place came a cold, calculating clarity. "You messed with the wrong woman," she whispered. 8 months later, Marcus Washington stood in his corner office, staring at his own bank statement in disbelief. His face drained of color as his empire crumbled around him. He never saw her coming. When you've given up your dreams for a man who promised forever, when you've built a life around children and family only to be discarded when he no longer needs you, what do you do with that pain? Subscribe to see how Denise transformed her heartbreak into the ultimate justice. Would you walk away with dignity or fight for what's rightfully yours? Tell me in the comments. What would you do in Denise's shoes? "You can stay as long as you need, Dee," Anita said, setting down a steaming mug of tea. "Mi casa su casa." Denise Washington managed a weak smile for her college roommate. Anita's spare bedroom in her Bronzeville duplex was a far cry from the 5-bedroom colonial in Oak Park that Denise had called home for 18 years. But beggars couldn't be choosers, and at 52, that's exactly what Denise had become. Anita studied her friend's face. Even exhausted and heartbroken, Denise was still striking. High cheekbones, almond-shaped eyes, and skin that had barely aged since their Northwestern days when every guy on campus had wanted to date her. Back then, Denise Williams had been the star of the business school, brilliant, beautiful, and destined for greatness. "Remember when we met Marcus?" Anita asked softly. "That finance mixer junior year?" Denise nodded, memories flooding back. Marcus Washington, tall, ambitious, with that dazzling smile that made her feel like the only woman in the room. They dated for 2 years before he proposed the night of graduation, down on one knee in the garden outside the business school. "Fastest rising black couple in Chicago," Denise murmured. "That's what Ebony called us in that feature they did when I was 28. Before the children. Before she'd walked away from her career track at Morgan Stanley. "Just till the end of the month," Denise promised, wrapping her cardigan tighter. "I've got some leads on paralegal positions." "Paralegal? With your Northwestern business degree? You were on the dean's list, for God's sake." That was a lifetime ago. Denise stared into her tea. No one's hiring a woman my age with a 20-year employment gap. The degree that had once landed her interviews at Goldman Sachs and Morgan Stanley might as well have been printed on toilet paper now. Marcus had made sure of that. She still remembered his words when she'd told him about the Morgan Stanley offer. "Dee, this is our moment. I've just been offered the VP track at Midwest Financial. If we both have demanding careers, who'll raise our family? I need you by my side at corporate events. This promotion could set us up for life." And she'd believed him. Sacrificed her career dreams to become the perfect corporate wife, hosting dinner parties for his colleagues, raising their children, attending every benefit and gala on his arm. Also, Marcus Washington could climb to executive VP. Her phone lit up with texts from her children. From Zoe, her eldest at Northwestern. "Mom, Dad saying all these things. What's happening?" From Isaiah, her 17-year-old music prodigy. Dad says you're too unwell to sign my permission slip for state. Is that true? From Ava, just 14. Mommy, Dad's talking about supervised visitation. When are you coming home? Denise's hands trembled. Marcus was systematically erasing her, not just from their home and finances, but from their children's lives. But beneath the panic, something else stirred. Something her grandmother Elise, the first black female bank manager on Chicago's South Side in 1968, had instilled in her. A Washington woman doesn't break, she'd say. She bends, she adapts, but she never breaks. She remembered watching her grandmother balance books at their kitchen table, teaching Denise how numbers worked. Financial independence is freedom, Elise would say. But Denise had surrendered that freedom one small compromise at a time, becoming nearly invisible in her own life. First, she'd postponed her career temporarily for Zoe's birth. Then she'd declined a part-time consulting offer to support Marcus during his first promotion. By the time Ava was born, Denise's world had shrunk to school carpools, charity committees, and organizing Marcus's social calendar. "Have you called a lawyer?" Anita asked. "With what money?" "I have $212 to my name." The envelope lay between them, the one she'd found behind the dresser the night before she was evicted. Denise hadn't shown Anita what was inside yet, couldn't bring herself to say the words aloud, to make the betrayal real. Her phone rang, an unknown number. "Mrs. Washington? Patricia Cole from First Capital Bank. I'm calling about your credit card payment. There must be a mistake. My husband handles the accounts." "Ma'am, according to our records, Mr. Washington removed himself as an authorized user 6 months ago. The outstanding balance of $42,000 is solely in your name." The room tilted. Another debt bomb. Across town, Marcus Washington surveyed Chicago from his corner office at Midwest Financial Group. At 56, he'd crafted the perfect image. Distinguished in his Tom Ford suit, Harvard degree displayed beside carefully curated family photos where Denise appeared in only one. Their wedding picture from 22 years ago, when she'd been 30 and radiant in ivory satin. His phone vibrated with a text from Vanessa. "Missing you. Dinner tonight? I've got a surprise." At 34, Vanessa embodied everything Denise was not. Ambitious, uncomplicated, focused entirely on Marcus. The condo he'd purchased for her on Lakeshore Drive was their sanctuary. "Mr. Washington?" his assistant appeared. "The Riverside team has arrived for the $40 million acquisition meeting. Tell them I'll be right there. Also, a Mr. Waters called. Said you'd want to know he visited the bank today." Marcus froze. Waters? The blood drained from his face. That name existed only on paper, a ghost identity he'd created for certain private transactions. No one knew about it except his private banker. And the safety deposit box. The one containing documents too sensitive to keep digitally. The box he hadn't checked since the night he'd sent Denise the divorce papers. Marcus recovered, dialing his lawyer. "Richard, I need you to check something for me. Immediately." Meanwhile, in Anita's kitchen, Denise placed down the phone after the bank call. "He didn't just plan to leave me," she said, her voice eerily calm. "He planned to destroy me." "What are you going to do?" Denise looked up, something dangerous flashing in her eyes, her grandmother's fire. "I'm going to remember who I was before Marcus Washington," she said, reaching for the envelope. "And then I'm going to take back everything he stole from me." The accommodating corporate wife had died. In her place stood a woman with nothing left to lose except her children. And a mother fighting for her children is the most dangerous force in nature. If Denise's story of sacrifice and betrayal resonates with you, hit subscribe to follow her journey from brilliant businesswoman to forgotten wife, and now, a woman ready to reclaim her power. Keep watching to discover what's inside that mysterious envelope and the first steps of her master plan. Let us know in the comments if you've ever had to start over after everything fell apart. Denise stood outside First National Bank, heart hammering in her chest. The envelope, now creased from countless openings, contained the key to Marcus's secret. a safety deposit box receipt in the name Michael Waters, and a bank statement with a transaction trail to an offshore account. Just walk in there like you own the place, Anita had advised. Confidence is everything. Easy for Anita to say. She hadn't spent 2 decades subordinating her voice to someone else's. Denise straightened her blazer, a cast-off from Anita's closet, and walked through the revolving door. The marble floors gleamed beneath chandeliers that bathed everything in soft golden light. This was Marcus's domain. He'd been on the board of First National for 6 years, attended their charity galas, played golf with the CEO. Every employee here knew him by name. Denise approached the receptionist with a smile she didn't feel. "I need to access a safety deposit box, please." "Certainly, ma'am. Your name?" She hesitated only a moment. "Michael Waters." The receptionist's fingers tapped at her keyboard. "I'll need to see identification, Mr. Waters." Denise's prepared speech evaporated. "I'm not. This is my husband's box. I'm Denise Washington." The receptionist frowned. "I'm sorry, Mrs. Washington. Only the registered box holder can access the contents." "But I have the key," Denise said, pulling it from her purse. The key she'd found taped behind Marcus's sock drawer while frantically packing her belongings. "I understand, but it's bank policy. Perhaps your husband could come with you?" Denise felt her cheeks burn. Of course, Marcus had made sure she couldn't access anything without him, even with the key in her hand. Always in control, always 10 steps ahead. She managed a tight smile. "Thank you. I'll speak with him." Outside, she leaned against the building, fighting tears of frustration. Marcus's genius was that he'd stripped her of more than money. He'd taken her confidence, her sense of agency, left her doubting her ability to reclaim anything. Her phone buzzed with a text from Isaiah. "Mom, are you really not coming to my recital tomorrow? Dad says you're refusing contact with the family." That son of a bitch. After everything he'd stolen from her, he was now stealing her children's trust. A reply came before she could respond. "Sorry, I shouldn't have asked. Dad says you need space and we should respect that." Denise's finger hovered over the call button, then hesitated. What could she say? That their father had systematically destroyed her life? That he was lying to them? Children shouldn't be forced to choose between parents. "Mrs. Washington?" Denise looked up to see an older black woman in a tailored suit exiting the bank. "I couldn't help noticing your situation inside," the woman said, extending her hand. "Evelyn Michaels, Senior Account Manager." "Nice to meet you," Denise managed, embarrassment washing over her. "Walk with me," Evelyn said, not a request. "I have a feeling we should talk." There was something familiar about Evelyn, the same commanding presence her grandmother had possessed. Denise found herself following without question. 28 years I've worked for First National," Evelyn said as they walked. "Long enough to see patterns. Men like your husband, they have a way of doing things." Denise stiffened. "You know Marcus?" Everyone in banking knows Marcus Washington. Brilliant with money, charming at parties. Evelyn's lips thinned. Not so kind to administrative staff. They stopped at a small cafe across from the bank. Over coffee, Evelyn spoke carefully. "A woman comes in trying to access her husband's secret safety deposit box. That tells me a story I've seen before." "It's not what you think," Denise said automatically, the reflexive defense of Marcus she'd perfected over decades. Evelyn raised an eyebrow. "Isn't it? Let me guess. Joint accounts emptied. Credit cards you didn't know about, possibly in significant debt with your name on it, not his." Denise stared at her, speechless. "I don't need to know the details," Evelyn continued, "but I'm guessing you need what's in that box." "I can't access it without being Michael Waters," Denise said bitterly. Evelyn studied her for a long moment. "There may be a way, not through the front door, but banks have procedures for suspected fraud. If someone reported suspicious activity from that account." "I couldn't ask you to." "You didn't ask." Evelyn slid a business card across the table. "Call this number tomorrow at 10 a.m. Ask for Richardson in fraud prevention. He's a friend." "Why would you help me?" Evelyn's eyes softened. Because 30 years ago I was you. Different husband, same story. She stood to leave. One more thing, Mrs. Washington. Whatever you find, be prepared. Men like your husband, they don't keep safety deposit boxes for birthday cards and family photos. Back at Anita's, Denise paced the small bedroom, torn between hope and terror. What might be in that box? Proof of Marcus's financial crimes? The access codes to offshore accounts? Or something worse? Evidence of affairs, a secret family, debts she didn't know about. Her phone rang. Zoe, Denise answered immediately. Mom, what the hell is going on? Dad just told us you're having a mental health crisis and we shouldn't upset you with calls. That's not true, sweetheart. Denise said, relief flooding her at hearing her daughter's voice. Your father and I are separating. She hesitated. How much should she tell her children? He's what, Mom? Because he's telling us you abandoned us, that you're unstable, that you're making threats. I would never abandon you, Denise said firmly. I'm staying with Anita until I can find a place. Your father emptied our accounts before filing for divorce. Silence stretched across the line. Zoe? Dad said you were paranoid, making up stories. Zoe's voice had changed, grown smaller. He showed us your texts. They didn't sound like you, Mom. Denise froze. What texts? The ones where you threatened to take everything from him, where you said we'd all pay for how we treated you. They came from your number. Cold dread washed over Denise. I never sent those texts, Zoe. I swear to you. Mom, I don't know what to believe anymore. The call ended, leaving Denise staring at her phone in horror. Marcus was gaslighting their children with fake texts, painting her as the unstable, vengeful ex-wife. The perfect preemptive strike, discrediting her before she could reveal what he'd done. Her phone pinged with an email notification. The sender, Denise Washington. With shaking fingers, she opened it. Denise, my lawyer advises against contacting you directly, but I wanted to extend an offer to simplify matters. I'm prepared to offer a one-time settlement of $50,000 in exchange for your signature on an NDA and agreement to waive all future claims against me or my estate. This offer expires in 48 hours. I'd hate for the children to be further exposed to unpleasantness. Marcus. $50,000. After 20 years of marriage, 3 children, and everything she'd sacrificed, the audacity took her breath away. This wasn't just betrayal, it was erasure. As if she'd been nothing more than an employee being terminated with a severance package. The next morning, as Denise prepared to call the fraud investigator, her phone rang. Unknown number. Mrs. Washington, this is Patricia from First Capital Bank. I'm following up about your credit card payment. I told you yesterday, there must be a mistake. Ma'am, I'm calling because there's been suspicious activity on your account. Someone attempted to purchase a one-way ticket to Grand Cayman using your card. Given the amount already owed, the transaction was flagged. Denise gripped the phone tighter. When was this attempted? Last night at 11:43 p.m. While she'd been asleep, someone was using her credit card, the one Marcus had removed himself from, to flee to the same location where he'd hidden money. Thank you for alerting me, Denise said, mind racing. Please freeze the account immediately. She hung up and dialed the number Evelyn had given her. Richardson, Fraud Prevention. This is Denise Washington. Evelyn Michaels suggested I call you. Ah, Mrs. Washington, yes, we've been expecting your call. I understand you have concerns about a safety deposit box registered to a Michael Waters. Yes, I believe it's being used to hide assets in a divorce. Interesting. Richardson's tone remained professional. We've flagged some unusual patterns with that account. Would you be able to come in and make a formal statement, perhaps around noon? After she hung up, Denise sat very still, processing. Something was happening. The attempt to buy a ticket to Grand Cayman, the bank's interest in the safety deposit box. Marcus was making moves. Which meant he was scared. As she prepared to leave for the bank, a text came through from a number she didn't recognize. I know what Marcus did. I can help you. Meet me at the Lakeside Coffee Shop at 2 p.m. Come alone. Denise stared at the message. Who was V, and could she trust them? But she already knew the answer. When you have nothing left to lose, any chance is worth taking. If you've ever had to decide between taking the safe route or risking everything for justice, you understand Denise's dilemma. Who is this mysterious V offering help? And what will she find in that safety deposit box? Continue watching to discover the first shocking twist in Denise's fight against Marcus. Subscribe now if you're invested in seeing a woman reclaim her power after being silenced for too long. Comment below. Would you meet with the mysterious texter, or is it too dangerous? Lakeside Coffee Shop buzzed with the afternoon crowd as Denise sat facing the door, her tea growing cold. It was 2:17 p.m. Her mysterious texter was late. After meeting with Richardson from fraud prevention, she'd learned little beyond confirmation that the bank was investigating unusual patterns with the Michael Waters account. Now here she was, risking everything on an anonymous text signed with a single letter. The bell above the door chimed. A striking young woman entered, tall, willowy, with an elegant bob and designer clothes that probably cost more than Denise's current net worth. Their eyes met, and she walked directly to Denise's table. Mrs. Washington? Her voice carried a slight accent. Russian, maybe? You must be V, Denise said, studying the woman's face. The woman slid into the seat across from her. Vanessa Parker. The name hit Denise like a physical blow. Marcus's girlfriend, yes. Vanessa's expression was unreadable, though that term feels inadequate for a 3-year relationship. 3 years, the same duration as the offshore transfers. Denise's hands curled into fists beneath the table. I assume you're here to gloat, she said, fighting to keep her voice steady. Vanessa's perfectly sculpted eyebrows rose. Quite the opposite. I'm here to help you destroy him. Denise stared at her, certain she'd misheard. I understand your confusion, Vanessa continued, signaling a waiter. But Marcus is not who either of us thought he was. And I'm supposed to trust you? The woman who's been sleeping with my husband for 3 years? No, you're supposed to listen. Vanessa reached into her designer bag and withdrew a manila envelope. Because I have something you need. Inside were photographs. Marcus with a blonde woman who wasn't Vanessa entering a hotel. Marcus with a redhead at a restaurant. Marcus with a brunette at what appeared to be a cabin. Marcus's pattern, Vanessa explained. I'm not his only distraction, just his longest-running one. I thought I was special until I found these on his laptop last month in a folder labeled insurance. Beneath the photos was a document, a prenuptial agreement between Marcus Washington and Vanessa Parker, dated 1 month ago. You're engaged? I was, Vanessa's mouth twisted, until I discovered he's been systematically stealing from me. Small amounts from my personal accounts, larger sums from my family's business, where he's been acting as an investment advisor. Why tell me this? Why not go to the police? The police would question how I gained access to his financial records and my family's business practices, which aren't entirely transparent to American authorities. Vanessa leaned forward. But you have legal rights to financial disclosure as his wife. What do you want in return for helping me? My money back, $2.3 million that Marcus invested for me, and my family's name kept out of legal proceedings. Vanessa tapped the table. I can help you access that safety deposit box. How convenient, Denise said slowly. And why shouldn't I believe this is just another trap? Marcus sends his girlfriend to gain my trust, learn what I know? You think I'm working for him, after he stole from me? I think I've spent 20 years with a man capable of anything. They stared at each other, 2 women caught in Marcus Washington's web. Finally, Vanessa reached into her bag again and pulled out a USB drive. This is everything I've gathered on Marcus's finances. Take it, verify it yourself. Why go through all this? If you have this much information, why not use it yourself? Because I'm not his wife, I have no legal claim. Vanessa hesitated, and because he's done this before. What do you mean? You're not his first wife. Vanessa's voice dropped to barely above a whisper, or even his second. The world seemed to tilt on its axis. Denise gripped the table to steady herself. Flash, his name wasn't always Marcus Washington. Before Chicago, he was Martin Walsh in Boston. Before that, Michael Warren in Atlanta. Vanessa placed a photograph on the table, a younger Marcus with a woman Denise had never seen. Both marriages ended the same way. Wife left penniless, assets vanished. Marcus, or whatever his name was, walking away clean to start over somewhere new. Denise stared at the photograph, her reality crumbling. Her husband of 20 years wasn't just a cheater or a thief. He was a professional predator. "I think I'm going to be sick," Denise whispered, her chest tightening. "I understand the shock," Vanessa said. "But we don't have the luxury of time. Marcus knows I've discovered his pattern. The attempted purchase using your credit card? That was him creating a paper trail to make it look like you were planning to flee the country." Denise's mind raced. The settlement offer, the forged texts to her children, the credit card activity. "He's not just divorcing me," she said, the terrible reality dawning. "He's setting me up to take the fall for his financial crimes." "Now you understand," Vanessa said. "So, are we going to work together, or shall we both become his latest victims?" Denise's hands trembled as she reached for the USB drive. 20 years of love and trust collapsed into dust. The man she'd married, the father of her children, had never existed. Her entire adult life was built on an elaborate lie constructed by a serial con artist who'd already discarded 2 wives before her. And now he was preparing to discard her too. Not just penniless, but possibly headed for prison while he walked away with millions. "Tell me what we need to do," Denise said, her voice hardening with each word. "Tell me how we can destroy him. Did you see that bombshell coming? Marcus isn't just a cheating husband. He's a serial con man with a history of destroying women's lives." Drop your thoughts below on this shocking revelation. Should Denise trust Vanessa, or could this be another trap? Subscribe now to see if these 2 women can bring down the man who betrayed them both. Class. The basement of Anita's duplex had become their war room. For 3 days straight, Denise and Vanessa had barely slept, combing through the files on the USB drive, connecting accounts, properties, and shell companies in a sprawling web of financial deceit. "It's like peeling an onion," Vanessa said, rubbing her bloodshot eyes. "Each layer reveals something worse." Denise nodded, staring at the laptop screen. Her Northwestern business degree and her grandmother's lessons were finally proving useful. Numbers had always spoken to her, and these numbers told a story of breathtaking fraud. "He used our mortgage to secure loans for properties in Nevada," Denise said, pointing to a document, "then used those properties as collateral for investments in the Caymans. It's all circular, designed to be impossible to trace." "Classic Marcus," Vanessa muttered. "Or should I say Michael or Martin?" The timeline they'd pieced together was staggering. 28 years of calculated predation, 3 wives, each chosen for their financial assets or family connections, each discarded after he'd extracted maximum value. Denise was simply the latest in the pattern. "I still don't understand how he got away with it for so long," Denise said. "Didn't the previous wives fight back?" "The first one tried." Vanessa pulled up a newspaper clipping on her tablet. Rebecca Warren of Atlanta filed charges in 1997, then suddenly withdrew them and moved to California. He threatened her? Or paid her off? Either way, she disappeared from the record. Vanessa scrolled to another article. The second wife, Catherine Walsh, was found dead in her Boston apartment in 2002. Apparent suicide. A chill ran down Denise's spine. "You don't think?" "I don't know, but it's convenient timing. She died 3 weeks after filing for divorce." The implication hung heavy in the air. Marcus wasn't just a con man, he might be something far more dangerous. Denise's phone buzzed, a text from Zoe. "Mom, I'm home for the weekend. Dad's acting weird. Can we talk?" Before she could respond, another text. "Actually, never mind. Dad says you sent more crazy texts last night. I can't deal with this right now. He's still impersonating me, Denise said, showing Vanessa her phone, turning my own children against me. We need to move faster, Vanessa said, her accent thickening with urgency. Your friend at the bank, Evelyn? Has she secured access to the safety deposit box? Richardson said they need 2 more days to complete the fraud investigation. We don't have 2 days. Vanessa stood abruptly. I have another way. What do you mean? Vanessa's smile was razor thin. I told you my family's business practices aren't entirely transparent to American authorities. We have connections. An hour later, they sat in a sleek black SUV with tinted windows, parked a block from First National Bank. The driver, a stone-faced man Vanessa had introduced only as Dimitri, hadn't spoken a word since they'd entered the vehicle. Are you sure about this? Denise asked. Her heart raced painfully in her chest. Breaking into a bank, even if it's just to access a box we have the key for, that's a crime. So is stealing $18.7 million from multiple women over 3 decades, Vanessa replied. That's our current total based on the records we've found. How much more do you think is in that box? Denise hesitated. The women she'd been last month, the perfect corporate wife, the rule follower, the accommodator, would never have considered this. But that woman was gone, replaced by someone who understood that playing by the rules when your opponent was a cheater only guaranteed your defeat. I've mapped all the cameras, Vanessa continued. Dimitri has a friend who works security. We have exactly 12 minutes while they cycle the surveillance system for an update. And if we get caught, then Marcus wins. Again. Vanessa's eyes locked with hers. Is that acceptable to you? It wasn't. Not anymore. Inside the bank, everything proceeded with terrifying smoothness. The security guard, apparently Dimitri's friend, nodded them through. The elevator took them to the vault level. The lights flickered briefly, the security system resetting. 9 minutes, Vanessa whispered, glancing at her watch. The vault attendant was expecting them, no questions asked. He simply led them to box 1127 and inserted his key, waiting for Denise to use hers. The metal box slid out with a soft scrape. Inside was a leather portfolio and a small metal case. 6 minutes, Vanessa hissed. Denise's fingers trembled as she opened the portfolio. Inside were dozens of documents, property deeds, account numbers, offshore holding structures, all under the name Michael Waters. Beneath them lay a stack of passports, different names, different identities, all with Marcus's face. He's been planning to disappear, she whispered. The small metal case held USB drives, labeled by year, and beneath them a velvet pouch containing 3 rings. Wedding rings. Denise recognized her grandmother's emerald-cut diamond, the one Marcus had proposed with. She'd thought it had been lost years ago during a move. He'd helped her search the house, comforting her when she cried over losing her grandmother's legacy. It had been in his possession all along, just like the other 2 rings, trophies from his previous conquests. 3 minutes, Vanessa said, photographing every document with her phone. As they hurriedly replaced everything and slid the box back into the wall, a notification lit up Denise's phone. An email from Marcus. If you're reading this, you've accessed the box. I always knew you might find it eventually. By the time you see this, I'll be gone. The accounts will be emptied. You're welcome to what's left. Don't bother looking for me. By midnight, I'll be somewhere you'll never find me. I've enjoyed our time together, but all games must end. Give my love to the children. Cold dread washed over her. He knows he's been watching us. They raced back upstairs, emerging into the late afternoon sunshine to find Dimitri's SUV gone. Vanessa swore softly in Russian. My phone's not working, Denise said, desperately trying to call Anita. Mine either. Vanessa's face had gone ashen. He's playing us. He knew we'd find the box. He wanted us to waste time here while he... The children, Denise gasped. They're home for the weekend. What if he's taking them? They ran 3 blocks before finding a taxi. The driver gave them an odd look as Denise frantically gave him her old address in Oak Park, promising triple the fare for speed. "He won't hurt them," Vanessa said, though she sounded uncertain. "It's not his pattern." "His pattern is to take what matters most," Denise said. "My children are what matter most." When they arrived at the colonial house that had been her home for 18 years, police cars lined the street. Neighbors stood on their lawns, watching with undisguised curiosity. An officer stepped forward as Denise leapt from the taxi. "Ma'am, you can't go in there." "This is my house," Denise said, trying to push past him. "My children." "Mrs. Washington?" The officer's expression changed to one of professional concern. "We've been looking for you. Your husband has filed a report." "Where are my children? Are they safe?" "They're fine, ma'am. They're inside with your husband. He's the one who called us." "Called you about what?" "About the theft of several $1 million from his accounts this morning, and about you being the primary suspect." Behind her, Vanessa swore softly. "He's framing you, just as I warned." Before Denise could respond, the front door opened and Marcus emerged, his arm protectively around Zoe's shoulders. His face registered practiced shock at seeing Denise. "There she is, officers," he said, his voice breaking with what sounded like genuine pain. "That's my wife." Zoe stared at her mother with red-rimmed eyes. "Mom, what did you do?" "Dad says you stole everything, that you've been planning this for months." Marcus pulled their daughter closer. "I didn't want to believe it either, sweetheart, but the evidence? The offshore accounts in her name, the sudden withdrawals, her suspicious behavior these past weeks." "That's a lie," Denise said, her voice strong despite the panic rising in her chest. "He's the one who's stolen everything. From me, from his previous wives." "Previous wives?" Zoe looked confused. "Mom, what are you talking about?" "Officers," Marcus said quietly, "my wife has been struggling with mental health issues, paranoid delusions. We've been trying to get her help." "I'm not delusional," Denise snapped. She turned to Vanessa for support, only to find the space beside her empty. Vanessa had vanished. And in that moment, the second devastating truth hit her. Vanessa had never been on her side. This had been the plan all along, to lure Denise to the bank, to get her fingerprints and face on security cameras, to create the perfect patsy while Marcus and his girlfriend made off with millions. She'd been played. Again. The officer stepped forward, handcuffs glinting in the fading light. "Mrs. Washington, we need you to come with us for questioning." Behind Marcus, Denise could see Isaiah and Ava peering through the window, their faces stricken with confusion and fear. Everything that mattered to her, her children, her freedom, her future, stood on the precipice of destruction. But as the cold metal closed around her wrists, something unexpected happened within Denise Washington. The panic and betrayal crystallized into perfect clarity. The numbers from the files she'd studied, the accounts, the patterns, all of it clicked into place in her mind. She might be in handcuffs, but for the first time, she could see every piece on the board. And she finally understood how to win. "Officer," she said calmly, "before we go, I'd like to make a phone call to Evelyn Michaels at First National Bank. She's expecting to hear from me about some very interesting accounts belonging to a Michael Waters." The flicker of fear that crossed Marcus's face told her everything she needed to know. The game wasn't over yet. Did that double-cross blindside you as much as it did Denise? Just when she thought she had an ally in Vanessa, it turns out she was being set up all along. Now framed for theft, and with her own children turned against her, Denise faces her darkest hour, but she's finally found her strength. Continue watching to see how she turns the tables in the dramatic conclusion. Do you think she can still win against both Marcus and Vanessa? Mrs. Washington. Detective Rivera gestured to the chair across from Marcus in the police station's family room. 24 hours after her arrest, dark circles rimmed Denise's eyes, matching the smudges of uncleaned fingerprints. Marcus sat perfectly composed, his lawyer hovering beside him like a well-dressed vulture. Before we continue, Detective Rivera said, I'd like to introduce you to someone. The door opened and Evelyn Michaels entered with a tall man in an FBI windbreaker. This is Agent Carter, Federal Financial Crimes Task Force, Rivera explained. Marcus's smile faltered. I don't understand why the FBI is involved in my wife's theft. Oh, they're not here for me, Denise said quietly. Agent Carter placed a folder on the table. Mr. Washington, or should I say Mr. Waters, or perhaps Mr. Walsh, or Mr. Warren. Denise saw the micro-expressions she'd learned to read over 20 years, the tightening around his eyes, the almost imperceptible clench of his jaw. Don't you? Evelyn added. First National Bank has been monitoring unusual patterns in several accounts for months. When Mrs. Washington came to us with concerns about hidden assets, it confirmed our suspicions. This is absurd, Marcus's lawyer interjected. My client is the victim. His third wife, Agent Carter corrected, is actually the whistleblower who broke this case wide open. Denise leaned forward. When you had me arrested, Marcus, you made one critical mistake. You thought I'd fall apart. But while I was being your perfect corporate wife for 20 years, I was watching you, learning how you think. The call I made to Evelyn yesterday? We've been building a case for weeks. All those job interviews? I was meeting with forensic accountants, bank investigators, and the FBI. The color drained from Marcus's face as Agent Carter revealed photographs of him entering banks in different cities over the past decade. Your wife couldn't access your safety deposit box, Carter said, but we could with a federal warrant. Interesting collection of passports. And those offshore accounts, Evelyn added. Every transaction leaves a digital fingerprint, especially when you use the same patterns repeatedly. Marcus's eyes locked on Denise. Impressive. I underestimated you. Everyone does, Denise replied. That was your template, wasn't it? Find a bright woman, convince her to sublimate her ambitions for yours, then systematically erode her confidence. It worked on Rebecca Warren and Catherine Walsh. It almost worked on me, and it was starting to work on Vanessa. At that name, Marcus's composure cracked. Where is she? In federal custody, Rivera said. She tried boarding a flight to Moscow using one of your spare passports. She turned on you immediately, Carter added. She's been quite helpful explaining how you two plan to frame Denise. Marcus laughed mirthlessly. Well played, Denise. But you're forgetting something crucial. The children will never believe you. The door opened again. Zoe entered first, followed by Isaiah and Ava, their faces solemn. Actually, Dad, we do, Zoe said, her voice breaking. The FBI showed us everything. The passports, the fake texts, your previous families. We found them, Marcus, Denise said gently. Rebecca is alive in Oregon, hiding from you for 20 years. Catherine's brother never believed she committed suicide. He kept investigating. They're both willing to testify, Agent Carter confirmed. For the first time, genuine emotion broke through Marcus's facade. Not remorse, but regret at being caught. Whatever your mother's told you, he began. Stop, Isaiah interrupted. Just stop lying. We've seen the evidence. The FBI showed us Grandma Elisa's ring, Ava added, trembling. The one you said was lost during the move. Marcus's eyes darted between his children and the exit. His hand slipped toward his pocket. Don't, Agent Carter warned. Slowly, Marcus withdrew a small key, identical to the safety deposit box key. My backup plan, he said hollowly. Another box, another identity. Always have a contingency, Denise. No, Marcus, Denise said, rising. What you taught me was that some mistake cruelty for cleverness, that some men think breaking a woman makes them strong. She moved beside her children, their hands finding hers. But sometimes the things you break become stronger in the mended places. As agents moved to arrest him, Marcus locked eyes with Denise. You realize you'll get nothing? The money's gone. You've won a hollow victory. Denise smiled serenely. That's where you're wrong. I don't need your money anymore. I've reclaimed something far more valuable. My life, my children, my future. She watched as they led away this man she'd loved for 20 years, this stranger she'd never really known. Mom? Zoe's voice was uncertain. What happens now? Now we heal, Denise said simply, together. Outside the police station, rain had given way to sunshine. As they walked toward Anita's waiting car, Denise's phone rang. Mrs. Washington? Thomas Barrow, from Northwestern University Alumni Association. We received your application for the Second Chance Scholarship. Yes? Denise's heart quickened. The committee was impressed by your essay on financial predation patterns. We'd like to offer you a full scholarship to complete your MBA with a focus on forensic accounting. As Denise stood in the sunshine with her children, she felt 20 years of imposed limitations fall away. The path ahead wouldn't be easy, but for the first time in decades, it was truly hers. Marcus had left her penniless after 20 years of marriage, but in trying to destroy her, he had inadvertently set her free. Wow, that was intense. Justice was served, as Denise outmaneuvered both Marcus and Vanessa, reclaiming not just her dignity, but her children's trust and her own future. Did you predict she'd been building a case all along? Don't forget to like if you enjoyed this roller coaster of emotions, and hit subscribe for more thrilling stories of resilience and redemption. Comment below with what you think Denise's next chapter in life will bring. 6 months later, Denise adjusted her new blazer in the mirror. Purchased with her first consulting check. The woman who stared back barely resembled the broken shell who had collapsed on Anita's doorstep half a year ago. Her locks styled in a sophisticated updo, eyes clear and focused. At 52, she wasn't starting over. She was continuing a journey interrupted 20 years ago. Mom, we're going to be late, Ava called from downstairs. Denise headed down to their modest townhouse, paid for with the settlement she'd negotiated after Marcus's assets were frozen. In the kitchen, Isaiah made sandwiches while Zoe reviewed flashcards for her pre-law exam. Nervous? Zoe asked as Denise entered. A little, she admitted. First day of classes is always intimidating. You've got this, Isaiah said. You're literally the strongest person we know. The past 6 months had transformed their lives. Marcus's trial made national headlines, bank executives' double life exposed, with the revelation that his second wife's suicide was being reinvestigated as a possible homicide. Through it all, Denise had protected her children, allowing them space to process their father's betrayal. Weekly therapy had become their lifeline. My mother's giving the keynote at a financial crimes symposium. Zoe grinned when Denise asked if they really wanted to attend. Wild horses couldn't keep me away. Northwestern University's campus hummed with activity as they approached the business school, where Denise had once been a star student, where Marcus had proposed on graduation night. But this time she wasn't here as someone's fiancée or wife. She was Dr. Thomas's guest speaker and the recipient of the Second Chance Scholarship. Mrs. Washington, Dr. Thomas greeted her. Or should I say Professor Washington? Not quite yet, Denise laughed. Still have to finish that MBA first. A formality. Your case study on financial predation patterns is already being used in our forensic accounting program. The FBI requested copies for their training division. At the podium, Denise began with quiet confidence. My name is Denise Washington, and until 6 months ago, I was the perfect corporate wife. The audience listened intently as she outlined her journey, not just the betrayal and fraud, but the psychological manipulation and the societal expectations that had trapped her. Financial abuse doesn't always look like someone stealing your credit card, she explained. Sometimes it's convincing you that you shouldn't have financial independence. Sometimes it's making you believe your value is in supporting someone else's dreams, rather than pursuing your own. Heads nodded in recognition throughout the hall. That's why I've established the New Beginnings Foundation, she announced unexpectedly. Using a portion of the recovered assets, we'll provide financial literacy education and emergency resources for individuals trapped in financially abusive relationships. After the lecture, a silver-haired woman approached with quiet dignity. Mrs. Washington? I'm Catherine's sister, Elena. Denise's heart stuttered. From Boston? Elena nodded. What you did, bringing all this to light after so many years, it's given our family hope that we might finally get justice for Catherine. They embraced, connected by the same predator, the same pain. That evening, as Denise helped Ava with homework, her phone buzzed with a notification from the U.S. Marshals Service. V spotted in Zurich. Extraction team en route. Vanessa had fled with millions from Marcus's accounts, but authorities had been tracking her for months. Another notification followed. Washington case. Offshore recovery team reports progress. Multiple accounts located. Denise set the phone aside. The money didn't matter anymore, except for how it could help others through her foundation. Mom? Are you okay? Ava asked. More than okay, Denise replied, smiling genuinely. Just thinking about how far we've come. And how far we still have to go? Zoe added, entering with mugs of hot chocolate. Exactly, but we'll get there. Together. As night fell, Denise sat surrounded by her children, her textbooks, and the beginnings of a new chapter. Marcus had left her penniless, thinking he had destroyed her. Instead, he had inadvertently released something far more powerful. A woman who would ensure his type of predation never went unseen again. And somewhere across the city, in a maximum security facility, Marcus Washington stared at his cell wall, wondering how the perfect corporate wife he had so carefully constructed had transformed into the architect of his downfall. Thank you for joining us for this powerful story of betrayal, resilience, and redemption. If Denise's journey inspired you, subscribe for more stories of women who refuse to be defined by their circumstances. Check out the resources in the description for information on financial literacy and independence. How did this story resonate with you? Share your thoughts in the comments section.